You know that feeling, right? You cram for an exam, you binge read a book, and then, a week later, it's all just gone. If you've ever felt like your brain is a leaky bucket, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to dive into the neuroscience of how we actually learn and build a system to make new knowledge stick. For good.
This quote from creator Matt D'Avella just hits so close to home, doesn't it? It's that feeling of frustration, where information goes in one ear and right out the other. I mean, you put in the time, you do the work, but when you try to recall it, nothing.
So what is going on here? Is it that our brains just aren't built for this stuff? Is it about willpower? Well, the answer, it turns out, is so much more interesting, and let me tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with how smart you are.
In fact, some studies based on what's called the forgetting curve suggest that we can forget up to 90% of what we learn if we don't have a solid system to process it. 90! Think about that. It's like trying to fill a bucket that's basically all holes. The problem isn't our brain, it's our strategy.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the real enemy of learning. Then, we'll explore the two critical modes your brain uses to learn anything. After that, we're going to build a two-phase system for deep focus and deliberate rest. And finally, we'll figure out how to master the balance between them. Sound good? Let's get into it.
So, the real issue, as neuroscientist Lila Landowski points out, is that we're all expected to learn our entire lives, but nobody ever actually teaches us how to learn, right? We're given textbooks and lectures, but not the user manual for our own brains. It's not a failure of intelligence, it's a failure of instruction.
And here is a huge insight from researcher Chris Bailey. We always think the enemy is distraction, but the much deeper problem? It's overstimulation. See, our brains are wired to seek out what's new, that quick scroll through a feed, that little notification pop-up. Each one gives us a tiny hit of dopamine, and this trains our brain to constantly hunt for the next new thing, which makes sitting down and focusing on just one topic feel, well, almost impossible.
So if overstimulation is the enemy, how in the world do we fight back? Well, the answer lies in understanding how our brain is actually designed to learn. Seriously, this one insight from neuroscience changes everything. It's like getting the keys to the control room of your brain.
It all comes down to this one incredible concept, neuroplasticity. This is the biological engine behind all learning. When you learn something new, your brain isn't just thinking differently, it's physically changing. It's forming new connections between your neurons. And the more you revisit that info, the stronger those connections get. Learning isn't just a mental act, it's a physical one.
Now, researcher Barbara Oakley explains that our brain has two very different modes for making this happen, and she uses this brilliant pinball machine analogy. So picture a pinball machine, right? The focus mode is when all the bumpers are packed really close together. This is for deep, concentrated work on stuff you already kind of know. But then there's diffuse mode. This is when the bumpers are spread really far apart. This lets your thoughts, the pinball, bounce around all over the place, making new, creative connections. This is the mode you need for tackling brand new ideas.
But here's the kicker. Learning isn't just about being in that focused mode. As Dr. Andrew Huberman says, it's a two-stage process. You need that strong trigger, that's the intense focus. But the actual rewiring of your brain, that happens during deep relaxation. And this gives us our big idea for today, the learning seesaw. It's this beautiful, dynamic balance between intense focus and deliberate rest.
So let's see how this actually works. We're going to start with the upswing of the seesaw. Phase 1, deep focus. This is where we get our hands dirty, engage with the material, and actually trigger that neuroplasticity.
And listen, this is not about just trying harder or powering through. We need a proper toolkit. And that toolkit has 3 key pieces that pull together advice from some of the top experts in this field.
First things first, you have to create the right environment. That means setting a dedicated time and organizing your space. Get rid of all the clutter that's fighting for your attention. But most importantly, you have to tame the digital stuff. Chris Bailey's research shows that just having your phone near you can reduce your focus. So put it in another room. Close all those extra tabs. You've got to give your brain a fighting chance. Second, you have to work with your biology, not against it. Turns out our brains operate in these 90-minute cycles of high alertness. They're called ultradian rhythms. You just can't maintain peak focus for hours and hours. So instead, use something like the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of intense, focused work, followed by a short break. This whole sprint and rest approach keeps your energy and attention way higher.
And finally, this one is absolutely key. You have to be an active participant. This is the real difference between just studying and truly learning. Passively consuming information, like just reading a chapter or watching a video, is incredibly inefficient. You have to digest it. Learning expert Justin Sung talks about mapping concepts out to see how they all connect. Author Ryan Holiday uses a system of taking physical notes on note cards, which forces his brain to process and organize the ideas. Summarizing, questioning, connecting, that's what builds those strong neural pathways.
Okay, now for the other side of the seesaw. This is the part most of us completely ignore, but it's where all the real magic happens. Phase 2, deliberate rest.
Now, this is a major paradigm shift. Rest isn't the opposite of learning, it is an essential part of learning. During that deep relaxation, your brain gets to work. It starts consolidating everything you just took in. It replays those neural patterns, it strengthens the new connections, and it moves information from your short-term to your long-term memory. Without this phase, all that focused effort can just go right down the drain.
And there are two crucial types of rest we need to talk about. First is macro rest, which is mainly sleep. While you're sleeping, your brain is busy cleaning house, pruning weak connections and strengthening important ones. This is why pulling an all-nighter before a test is one of the worst things you can do. But there's also micro rest. These are the short breaks you take during your learning sessions. A 5-minute walk, just staring out the window. These little breaks are critical for locking in what you just worked on.
Now, this brings us to an incredibly powerful micro-rest technique from Dr. Huberman's research called gap learning. And it's as simple as it sounds. While you're in a deep focus session, just pause. For 10 seconds, do nothing. In that tiny little gap, your brain replays the information you were just learning at 10 to 20 times the normal speed. You are literally getting dozens of mental reps without any extra effort. How cool is that?
So how do we bring this all together? How do we master this rhythm between intense focus and deep relaxation to create a learning system that actually, works?
At the end of the day, learning isn't some relentless grind. It's not about brute force. It's more like a dance. True mastery comes from skillfully managing this seesaw, knowing when to lean in hard with focus and when to lean back and let your brain do its thing. It's a dynamic process of engaging and disengaging.
And this goes so much deeper than just studying for a test. As Chris Bailey says, the state of our attention determines the state of our lives. When you learn how to control your focus, you don't just become a better learner, you become more present, more intentional, and way more creative in pretty much every aspect of your life.
So here it is, your new system in 5 simple, actionable steps. First, just acknowledge your brain has 2 modes. Second, work in short, distraction-free sprints. Third, actively digest information. Fourth, make sleep an absolute non-negotiable. And fifth, sprinkle in those powerful micro-rests and those little 10-second gaps. This right here, this is the user manual for your brain.
So, I'm going to leave you with this one question. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. The difference isn't how long you spend staring at a book, it's how you use that time. So are you going to spend it just studying, passively consuming and quickly forgetting? Or are you going to spend it truly learning, building lasting knowledge that you can actually use for the rest of your life? The choice is yours.